How's everyone good? Being rested? Good.
Yoga, walk, lunch, yoga, wrestling.
Exhausting, isn't it? Oh. Any questions about anything this morning? Anyone's not sure about?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
It's in 3 parts. The first part is that you said this morning that suffering, correct me if I've got this wrong, that suffering is what gives us kindness, compassion and empathy.
Mm-hmm. And other things.
Are you saying that without suffering we would not have these qualities?
I'm saying you'd have a very hard time having those things. Suffering seems to cultivate a lot of what's good about us. And so, and I meet a lot of people sometimes and they haven't had suffering, to make sure that's all it is. And they tend to sweat about smaller stuff. And yet if you meet someone that's had a tragedy, all of a sudden, you know, the little things aren't important. And there's this acute awareness of the importance of life and of existence and of love. And it kind of refocuses us on what's good and what's wholesome. And, you know, it stops us getting lost in, you know, what do I buy next? What do I wear next, you know? So it has this profound, cultivating quality, suffering. It isn't, you know, something that you'd necessarily wish upon yourself, but if you have suffered a lot, if you are suffering a lot, it's not a bad thing. And they say you can learn through grace or suffering, and maybe suffering is grace. You know.
The second part of my question is that the Buddha left the palace, did he not?
Mm-hmm.
Having been in a realm where everything was bestowed upon him,
Mm-hmm.
and he went into the world of suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Could you explain a bit about that? Why he chose to leave nirvana and, or so-called, to enter the world?
Opulence, yeah. You know, the story of the Buddha, he was, you know, when he was born, they said, the astrologer said, he's going to be, you know, the king of the world. I think the story goes, the king of, one of the kings of the world, like some kind of incredible monarch, or he'll be a spiritual leader that completely transforms life for people. And they were said to keep him away from suffering, you know, because suffering will ignite the transformation. So yeah, they kept him away from illness, death, old age. And then the story goes, there's lots of different variations of the story, that he managed to eventually escape the palace at some point, jumped over the wall and run into a beggar elderly beggar who was dying, and thought, this is suffering, and now I must end this. There's also a lot of stories about perhaps he went on his own journey of, you know, trying to, you know, fill the whole of his soul with everything that we do, you know. And the palace signifies all those things that we think we would want, isn't it? You know, he was a healthy child, healthy young man, all this wealth around him, all the women that he could want, and he walked away from it all. Because inside he knew that this was not a permanent state, you know, and that's what the seeing the old man did. It's not just to end other people's suffering, it's realising that's going to happen to me, that is what will happen, birth, life, death. So there's something else that once you've realised that very deeply, there's something else that you feel like you should be committing to. You know, becoming a person of value, becoming what you can be, and not worrying about everything you've got, everything you've surrounded yourself by, all of your desires. It's kind of meaningless. You know, when you die, that's it. It's going to be gone. I used to be, I'm very logical minded, so I used to say I don't believe in anything unless I see it and feel it with my own mind. So I used to say I think maybe at death, I don't know if we just dissolve or we go on. Or, my firm conviction now is that all that happens when you die is that the sensory system shuts down and that there is something else that carries on. And that's what we're trying to get in touch with here. In that instance, it's really important that you cultivate goodness, you cultivate kindness, you make your mind somewhere where you'd want to spend a little while. You know, I think all of that might have been going through the Buddha's mind. But the Buddha's, there's so many layers to that story. It's our story, isn't it? We have kind of things that make us comfortable, and yet we're not happy. And we're coming out of the palace. We've seen our own suffering or the suffering of those around us, and it's making you sit and listen. It's making you come on retreats. It's making you explore things. It's, you know, if you were all really like, wow, you know, you wouldn't be listening to me. You just wouldn't bother. You know, you wouldn't need to. Also, the palace, with all of its, you know, pleasantries and food and wine and women, it also signifies the mind. You know, the mind of the senses and feeding the senses. When he leaves the palace, who does he leave? The mind, you know. Leaves the mind, the thinking mind. Want, get, want, get. You know, your thoughts all around, all your desires. This is you know, these things are not good for you. You spend your whole life trying to get what you want, and it doesn't make you happy. It makes you more unhappy. You know, have one desire, and then it's replaced by another, and then it's replaced by another, and then it's replaced by another. You speak to a beggar on the street; they have a total different set of desires. You speak to a monarch; they have a very different set of desires. But I tell you, the suffering can be very similar in both. Money has nothing to do with it. Wealth has nothing to do with it. Getting what you want has nothing to do with it. You know. So yeah. Anyway, he's coming out the palace and committing himself to finding out what's real, and that's the choice that you all have available to you, right here and right now. It's not a story of someone, you know, 1,000 odd years ago. It's your story, you know, and you have the choice whether you want to commit to this kind of stuff. Not just what I'm talking about, but just your own inner journey and your own inner inquiry into reality and into your nature, and for you to turn around and say, I don't care about all this shit anymore. I'm going to think about my value as a person, not even what I'm getting from my relationships or what I'm getting from purpose, or I want to do a different career, or I want to do it, not even that, just who am I and who am I going to be in my environment? And it becomes so empowering. You know, it becomes so empowering because at any given moment, you know, you can react to things differently. You know, you can decide with your own force of being that actually I'm going to cultivate a good human being in here. You know, and then you can be on your deathbed smiling. You know, because then your life has been worth something. You know, your you know, holidays and cars and houses aren't going to matter to you. They're nothing. You're building sand castles, you know, on the shore, and the tide's coming in. You know, you're better off just diving into the water and getting to know it. You're better off cultivating, you know, a good human being, aligning yourself with real qualities and focusing on that. And that's the battle, really, is that as you leave here, your mind will naturally slip into your old life because that's your conditioned pattern of behaviour. But hopefully the alarm call works, you know. Hopefully something in the back of your mind goes, I'm not going to do this anymore, you know. And that's where I got to with it. There's no win for you in that state of mind where you're trying to get what you want, and you end up suffering, you end up causing suffering to everyone around you. You're much better off thinking, do you know what, I'm going to be compassionate, I'm going to be kind. I'm not going to worry about whether people are hurting me. I'm not going to care about whether people are ridiculing me or whether they think I'm the greatest or the worst. I'm going to instead just focus on bringing bringing up within me something very profound, a very profound sense of love, a very profound sense of compassion, a very profound sense of wisdom, you know. Light years in every direction, they can't find anything like you. Light years in every direction. We cannot find another creature like this. What are you going to do while you're here? You're going to learn about life and about the heart, about the mind. Or are you going to fuck around? Waste your time? You know? And suffering really wakes you up when you see it, like Buddha did. Suffering really grabs you know, by the neck. You, boom, you see. And that's the wonderful thing about life, and why you realise how precious existence is, and how this realm that we live in here, this earth, is a profound, pure land. It's a heaven. Because every time you do something that's not good for you, it creates suffering. To show you, don't do this. You know? Every time you follow your desires, it makes you more unhappy. Because desire is not a good thing. You know? Every time you think about yourself, you create more suffering. Every time you think about others and you're selfless, you create more happiness. You know, life, there's something about this existence is teaching us, moulding us, shaping us. Whether you like it or not, thank God. You know? This is why this teaching is so important, especially if you're exploring spirituality, because there are so many different teachings that aren't this. There are so many different people that will teach you meditation and say to you, I can teach you how to get what you want. You know, this is what you should spend your life doing. You should spend your life just trying to get things. And the more and more stuff you can get, the better. It's actually the opposite of that. And that's why this teaching is so important. You've got a profound opportunity here. Profound, you know. Atoms have collided together over billions of years, and you're the culmination of that. What are you doing with it? You know? I don't want any of you to feel bad about the fact that you're, you know, running through the world trying to, you know, get some things that you want, and, you know, we all do it. It just doesn't make you happy. That's all. That's your punishment for it. No big waggy finger God that's gonna, you know. Your punishment is you create the life that you want, don't you? If you want to run around wanting stuff, then you run around wanting stuff. That's what you get. You know, I don't want you to feel bad about doing what comes natural to you. We really grow up in choicelessness. You're a product of your environment and of your culture, and we all have been fumbling around in this cosmic mess to try and get through the fucking day, you know. And if we can get a bar of chocolate, a glass of wine, and sex, and just a job that pays us money, so we can have a nicer house. And we're just trying to get through the day, but you don't have to be like this. You don't have to feel like you just have to try and get through the day. You can remedy that hole in your soul. You can really fill it by this aching within you that you have is not an aching for all these things that you think you want. It's an aching for the expression of your potential, because something inside you knows, doesn't it? It's not right. Something's not right. At the back of my mind, it just almost feels a bit, because you know. So you made lots of mistakes, and you'll make a lot more mistakes, and life's very patient, so don't worry. But maybe now's the time, maybe when you decide, no more wanting, no more getting. So-and-so doesn't like me and they're an arsehole. C'est la vie. Do I have to start conflicts? Do I have to start fights? Do I need to worry about this? Do I need to worry about that? Do I need another house? Do I need another this? Do I need a car that's new? Do I need this? Do I need that? just none of it's important. None of it. Anything else? So let's get ourselves still. So maybe just for this meditation, maybe for every other meditation we have after this, take maybe what I've said in mind, and we commit any benefit of this practice that we sit here and now. Perhaps we came to this retreat thinking that we're going to sit here and worry about how we can find our peace, but let's just for now, we ask that any benefit for this meditation not touch us, that it just be distributed out to others. Because what do we need? We're awareness. We're profoundly safe, everything is okay. Thoughts are coming and going, sounds coming and going. We're safe, we're whole. And even if we don't understand these teachings, the beautiful thing about them is that they're not for your mind. They go into your consciousness, and they sit there like seeds. And when the time is right, they burst into life. And now those seeds are there. There's nothing we can want for. So as we sit and meditate, we just meditate with the view that we're okay, and we now want our lives to become something of value to others in small ways and big ways. As we sit and focus on the breath and the air moving in through the nose and out through the nose. All desire to fall from the mind. Who needs it? Even the desire for peace to fall from the mind. Who needs it? Allowing the mind to come to absolute stillness. As thoughts come, let them come, and as they go, let them go. Allowing the mind to fall into a deep sense of acceptance for every sound, every sensation, every thought that comes and goes. and deeper still into a profound sense of acceptance for our life and the experiences that have come before us and that will come before us. Resting into every tragedy, every grief, every sadness, every joy, every happiness, every ache, every pain, every moment of peace, allowing ourselves to fall into a deep sense of acceptance for the fullness of the human experience, profoundly sacred, rare experience that we couldn't possibly understand the value of, we couldn't possibly arrange or manipulate because we just don't know just how profound and sacred it is, and we don't know the value of even our deepest, darkest moments. And so with this reverence, we ease off from telling life how it should appear and instead just rest. Seeing how your mind's aware, acutely aware, unconditionally aware. You're not picking and choosing. It's thoughts that do that. You're not thoughts. You're effortlessly and unconditionally illuminating every sound, every sensation, every joy, every pain. Really, your mind is already at ease with things. At its deepest part, its primordial essence, it is already in this deep state of surrender and allow. Nothing can add to it, nothing can take anything away from it. Can't grasp hold of our mind, it's something unborn. Something non-physical. Taken on this mask of self, so it seems. As we sit and look in the stillness, there's something else, isn't there? Something we can't put our finger on. But it's what we are. Nothing to gain, nothing to attain. beauty of everything I've just been speaking about is that this noble being, this kind, compassionate, wise, selfless being, requires no effort to arrive. All we have to do is rest. Because the nature of your own consciousness, when it expresses itself through the mind, is those things. Beyond the mask of self, you already are those things. Incomprehensible wisdom, boundless compassion. So you can rest. You can deeply rest. Really, there's nothing to transform or change. Mind is always pure. Just like the clouds have no effect on the sun. Ignorance and delusion has no effect on your mind. The clouds come and the clouds go when the time's right. And all of that delusion, all of that suffering, all of that mud, from this the lotus appears of awakening. We can know the light of our own mind only because we've known the darkness of our mind. Everything is so perfect, so whole, so destined, so profoundly safe. Everything is so okay. Now slowly we can open our eyes, not as the end of meditation, but just to have the eyes open. With this stillness. Isn't that what we want? To have the eyes open with this stillness. This desireless mind. Really nothing changes when we open our eyes. this time, all you had to do was rest your mind. That's all. Give it a rest. Interesting, isn't it, when your mind is detached from the narratives, your mind goes into a state of peace. That's your nature. Revealing itself. And you stop splashing and banging around on the surface of your mind. You let it rest. You stop clinging on to things. You stop resisting things. Stop chasing after things. Stop rejecting things. Stop running around like a little dictator, telling life what you should have and what you shouldn't have, and when it's letting you down and when you're happy with it. And thoughts are like thieves. Zen story. Thoughts are like thieves coming into your house. That's the bad news. The good news is the house is empty. Your mind is empty. You don't have to worry about what's running through it. The greatest suffering and the greatest joy, it doesn't leave any stain or mark. Your mind is empty. There's another Zen saying, the bad news is you're a cat that's fallen out of a tree. And the good news is there's no ground. If we think there's a ground, that there's some disaster to life, when we fall out of the tree, we cling onto all the branches and break our arms and our legs. But once we know there's no ground, we just allow ourselves to fall. That's how you have to get with life. Just fall. It's okay. Let it all come, let it all go. Let each disaster come. Let each joy come. Grieve when you have to grieve and smile when you have to smile, and just accept it all. Don't resist any of it. Don't try and grasp hold of happiness or try and resist suffering or grief. Let it all be. Make peace with it. Take it as your teacher. Take your sadness as your teacher. Changes it. You push sadness and grief and suffering away. You create an enemy. And it's not. You let it come and you see it's your teacher and part of life and just part of this wholeness and a challenge and something that perhaps you wouldn't choose, but it is what it is. There's peace, you know. You give yourself the freedom to be sad, the freedom to be happy. And all of a sudden this freedom begins to overtake all of those emotions. This peace begins to overtake all of those emotions. You become not the least bit interested in happiness and not the least bit concerned about grief. You know? Suffering is okay, joy is okay, but you know, you found freedom in them, and that freedom is what becomes your living experience. That peace is what becomes your living experience. What a relief. Any other questions? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy your dinner.